Hey, right along. The shield's in the car together.
Sierra Hotel, India, Echo, Lima, Delta, Shield.
You've just jumped inside the pull bag. Join TFG1Mike and the rest of the comic reading crew here at the GCRN as they make their great escape into comics. From DC, Marvel, IDW, Boom Studios, Zenoscope, and more, we have everything you want to read right here. Transformers comics? Yeah, we cover that. He-Man? Yeah, sure. DC superheroes like Batman, Batgirl, Nightwing, and Batman Beyond? Yep, we have those too. How about TMNT from IDW and I Hate Fairyland from Image Comics? Yeah, we have all that here. Plus, so much more. It's all inside the pull bag here on the Geekcast Radio Network. So without any further ado, it's time to talk about the comics we are reading right now here inside the pull bag.
Good to see you again, brother.
Brother? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. No, I'm not sorry. But look at you, you're just so full of yourself now.
Good reason.
Actually, you're full of something else. You are a sniveling little suck-up sellout full of suffering succotash, son!
Hello and welcome to The Pullbag. This is episode 333. No, there's no naked gun here. I am, of course, TFG1Mike. Joining me is Ryan, the UnEvenFlow Merkley. Hello, sir.
What up, yo?
What up, yo? And we're back to Boom Studios and WWE, done by Dennis Hopeless, Serge Acuna, and Doug Garbark. Volume 3 is the Roman Empire.
Also, yay, more mindless sort of, I shouldn't say mindless, more disposable fun entertainment.
Yeah. Like,
which it feels like we need more of nowadays. But
yes, anyway. Yes, exactly. Any media personalities that diss the death of somebody because they don't feel that comic books help the industry or help people, you can go jump off a fucking cliff.
So I assume, yeah.
We need to bring this up because...
That's actually a good point, because, yeah, this is the biggest news, really, in comics forever.
Yeah.
I had... so it was a rough weekend. That weekend, one of our cats passed away, and then one day later,
Stanley died.
Yeah, so we put down a cat, and then you find out, the man who created... or was responsible for an awful lot of the creation of characters you grow up with.
Yep.
And characters I still live with and love now.
Yeah. We did a retrospective, or not a retrospective, but we did a tribute on Geekcast Radio's main podcast about it with Neil and JT and myself. And I did not, at that time... the Bill Maher news had not hit or any, it hadn't been...
Oh, Bill Maher can suck it.
I know, exactly. But like you're saying, Stan Lee is not only responsible, but he is a part of let's face it doesn't matter what order you put them in, these three men are responsible for starting characters at Marvel that have lived on in the last 80 years in various stories over various writers. It's Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, and Jack Kirby.
Jack Kirby, yeah. And
it's
weird to me that there's not there's a bit of controversy, but there's so little.
Yeah.
Compared to the DC stuff. You can't really... Anytime you talk about a lot of their major characters, most notably Batman... Mm-hmm. There's controversy about who created what and that sort of thing. With the Marvel stuff, there's so much less of it. So there's a little less drama. And a lot of that, too, is that Stan just seemed like such a genuine and good human being. And then for a complete pile of shit like Maher to try to pile on. One of my favorite things with Bill Maher is the fact that for some reason... hell with it. I'm just going to be blunt about it for once for a few minutes.
That's fine.
Trump supporters seem to think he's somehow like some liberal icon or something like that. No, everybody hates him.
Yeah.
He's a misogynistic, woman-abusing piece of shit. Like,
I mean, at this point, Bill Maher should be exactly. At this point, Bill Maher should be more hated than Nickelback.
wow, let's not go extreme here. No, but
Come on.
No, joking aside, though, that yeah, Stan Lee was. It's when you sit down and you think about what he created and what he's done, and then you look at stuff like the MCU, which clears $1 billion per film with ridiculous frequency.
Yep.
Something that not even Star Wars can do. It's nuts. Like what he has done and what he's created. And I've said this before about some of the people that have passed on that we've talked to about on this show and others. But he gets a legacy that's going to be remembered for all time, which is one of the best tributes you can give a person.
Absolutely.
You know, he's never going to be forgotten. And he seemed, again, you know, he seemed like such a good person, and he seemed to love his fans.
Yeah, and there was a news story that came out, I think it was last year or a couple of years ago, about his handlers or people within his camp that were mishandling certain aspects of his professional life and yada, yada, yada. I almost got the same feeling as like a whole Casey Kasem thing is what happened to Casey, but it obviously wasn't that. It was not that.
No, yeah.
But like when
and in retaliation, they released something about Stan abusing his like it got icky for a bit, which
I mean that's more so his people than it is him. Everything I have ever seen him do, he's always been a stand-up guy. He's always, you know, in all of the conventions and everything else he's done, I've never read of anyone, celebrity or normal person on the street, having a negative interaction with the guy. Right.
I can't think of anybody else that has had that. That's nuts. He has probably met millions of people.
Oh yeah. I mean,
over the years.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it's his impact on comics. We wouldn't be talking about any comics. Probably.
No, absolutely not. Like,
or at least not in this same format or anything like that.
Oh no. He was a pioneer. He was someone who created characters that were, at the time, you think about it, Spider-Man in 1962, even though it was Joe Simon and somebody else that created Cap, but, you know, Captain America, Stan's contribution to Cap.
Well, Jack Kirby, too, yeah.
Jack Kirby, too, right, yeah. But, Jack Kirby and Joe Simon are the
Incredible Hulk.
Right. The Hulk, the X-Men. Like, without Stan creating the X-Men, we wouldn't have the best X-Men cartoon ever, and that's X-Men the Animated Series.
Well, and it's funny because the X-Men, Marvel, you know, this is a show we could talk about at some point, but Marvel tried to kill the X-Men.
Of course they did.
Because of the Fox stuff, which, by the way, is ridiculous. But anyway. And they couldn't. These are all characters that have withstood the test of time and are probably going to keep going. Not probably, but in all likelihood, yeah, they're going to keep going forever.
Yep.
And even the company trying to get rid of them
didn't help.
Didn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to endure, and yeah, he's never going to be forgotten. And it's still a really sad. It's still a ridiculously sad event, and I admit, it's going to be really sad the first time I watch a Marvel film, and there's no cameo.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to expect to see him to a certain extent, and I know that might seem kind of silly, but he was always there. You know, you always knew you were going to see him, or knew he was going to pop up, and
exactly, like it just, like, I have to actually go back and watch the original X-Men film. I didn't know his cameos until Spider-Man, so I actually have to go back and watch the original X-Men.
I had forgotten he was in not a huge fan of them, but the Fantastic Four movies, for example. And
I knew he was in that, because that was
I had just forgotten, though, and I had forgotten that he was in X-Men, in particular X-Men 1, where he's on the beach.
Yeah.
3, I think everybody remembers, where he's on the lawn when Jean first manifests her powers. But
I mean, and there's only one cameo where I'm like, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to kill Stan Lee? And that's 2008's The Incredible Hulk, when he drinks the tainted soda thing. I'm like, don't do that. Like, give Stan a cameo, but don't have him drink the bad juice.
I'm sure he was fine. It's Stan Lee.
I'm sure it's Stan Lee. The man will live on forever. The man, as you said, will be remembered until the end of time, unlike some media personalities.
Yeah, by the way, favorite, I think, cameo. Oof, that's tough. The Deadpool one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought was fantastic. And I liked him in both Guardians of the Galaxy cameos.
I think my two favorite are when Tony misidentifies him as Hugh Hefner. I believe that was in Iron Man 2. I think it was in Iron Man 2, but I could be wrong. And when
one, I can't remember. Anyway,
it's one of those. I think it is one, actually. Now that I don't know. Anyway,
sure. Yeah.
And the other one was when he was delivering a package to Tony.
Tony Stank.
I'm looking for Tony Stank, and Rhodey's like, "Yep, that's Tony Stank right here."
Try to add some levity to Civil War, which was pretty dark.
Yeah,
and definitely memorable.
Yeah. It's just, the man will be remembered forever. And at some point, I don't know who it's going to be. I said something to JT about this. I went online to Comixology.com, and I just, by sheer looking it up, Amazing Fantasy 15, the debut of Spider-Man, digitally is $2. I'm like, that's nothing. I'll grab that. So at some point, we will have another full-on, like, remembrance kind of thing, or dedication to Stan.
It's near impossible to do comic shows without some at this point too.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I have plans for us, whether it's you and I, whether it's JT and I, whatever, to do the final Dan Slott arc, Red Goblin, because I have that trade too. It's so weird. Yeah. I always felt with Spider-Man and Batman specifically, because those are two of my favorites on either side, whatever, I could never get into them because, 80 years, 75 years of content, and where do you start kind of a thing. But yet, every time I'm reading a Dan Slott book when it comes to Spider-Man, I'm at the end of one series going into another. I started with 698 to 700, which ended the original his original numbered run. He went to Superior Spider-Man. I read that, and now I'm going back to the end of the next amazing arc.
Slott did a really good job of acknowledging the history without being weighed down by it.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked his run overall, and yeah, I liked that he tried different things. WWE Studios.
Hi, heroes. This is Stan Lee coming at you. Want you to know, Marvel has always been and always will be a reflection of the world right outside our window. That world may change and evolve, but the one thing that will never change is the way we tell our stories of heroism. Those stories have room for everyone, regardless of their race, gender, religion, or color of their skin. The only things we don't have room for are hatred, intolerance, and bigotry. That man next to you, he's your brother. That woman over there, she's your sister. And that kid walking by, hey, who knows? He may have the proportionate strength of a spider. We're all part of one big family, the human family, and we all come together in the body of Marvel. And you're part of that family. You're part of the Marvel universe that moves ever upward and onward to greater glory. In other words, Excelsior!
WWE back in the ring here with Roman Reigns. I've already given the creative team, but again, Dennis Hopeless, Serge Acuna, Tim Latai, pencils done by him on Chapter 10, pages 10 to 16, Chapter 11, and various things. Doug Garbark on colors, Jim Campbell on lettering, Dan Mora on the cover.
So you mentioned Dan Mora, who again we need to have on.
Yes.
But the cover to number 10, which was a Dark Knight Returns homage, if you remember.
Which is the podcast art for this episode, yes.
Yes, okay. Well, I didn't know that, in my defense. Wow. Also, it's weird. He gets to do more, with the exception of 11, but he gets to do more kind of comic bookish covers. And I think a lot of that, too, is because Roman's sort of a comic book character. But yeah, I really liked the cover to 11.
The trade starts out with the main cover of Roman with Bray and everybody overseeing him. And I read this story, but I don't remember him. Like, I remember all the Shield's animosity in this part of the series. I don't remember Bray and Roman going up against each other in this. We'll find out, but as I said before in the last episode with Dean, there is quotes on each of these covers from whoever's, the star. Roman says, "This is a great comic book, and you can believe that." So we start out chapter 9 of the series. We're at the T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas, Nevada, June 19th, 2016. Roman is champion. Dean has Money in the Bank. And,
Seth has turned on them at this point.
Yeah, Seth has turned on them at this point.
Seth, by the way, makes an excellent comic book villain.
Yes, he does.
That's what I discovered.
Yes, he does. Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, continue. Sorry.
I love this. I think it's so great that these artists and this writer with Dennis Hopeless, that he's, all of this team are just capturing the behind the scenes stuff with the now broken up Shield kind of thing, and then it sets up Roman to go into his own singles stuff that he had done.
And again, a lot of this seems to be the creation of Hopeless, because again, referencing real life, they continued to travel together. Like, they were still friends.
Right,
in real life, obviously, after they broke up. But yeah, it's interesting that you get to write for something that happened in real life and make stuff up for it too. Mm-hmm. Which I don't know how often that gets to you get to do that as a writer.
Not often. So, Roman's coming into the ring. He has a match with Seth, and obviously they're all booing him and whatever. Seth comes out and he's like, that's who they decide to cheer? Mr. Backstabber, Mr. Architect?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that happened too. It's weird to me Hi, Basil. Basil wants to guest star. It's weird to me that they acknowledge that Reigns got the... use the Michael Cole divisive reactions.
Yeah.
Because usually they just want to depict that everybody loves him and that sort of thing.
But they don't. Like, not even just in this, but like...
No, yeah, I'm just surprised, though, in the comic that they allowed them to do that. So.
Again, I feel like these comics to this point that we've been reading them are basically... Yes, you're right, Dennis is adding in certain things, but I feel most of this is like, what actually did kind of... It's basically a visual retelling of what happened on the shows and on the pay-per-views and yada, yada, yada. I think where Dennis in this, maybe he talked to Roman, maybe he talked to WWE, I don't know. I feel like most of Dennis's creative writing part of this comes in like in the history and how that's like, because we cut to some sold out arena back in the day after the thing with Seth and Roman, or in between it kind of a thing where Roman's flashing back to but my dad's the hero, and these guys are just the jerks, kind of a thing. So I think that's where most of his creative comes in really nicely, and it's written all well and good anyway. It doesn't really matter. I don't know what the Boom Studios deal is with WWE as far as quote-unquote creative control. I assume... Yeah,
that's what I was sort of getting at. I wonder how much, is he... Do they read it?
Yeah.
I guess. Is it like a Marvel or somebody like that where they're allowed to say, no, this is what you need to put in? Mm-hmm. I have no idea. We wouldn't know unless we talked to him. So.
Yep. So as kids, Roman and the Usos have wrestling matches, like all kids do, with action figures. What are you gonna do? There's no.
No, I'm pretty sure I did that with the.
Yeah, I know I did too. So.
I can't remember the name of the company now. But it was the ones that didn't have any posability at all.
Mego?
No, I don't think so. Anyway, continue.
Anyway, so Rikishi shows up. I love what they did with Rikishi art style wise. I think that is super cool.
Yeah, and it's undeniably him.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
I like all of them, actually. The Usos look good, although we saw them in other issues.
Yeah, we didn't... did we see them younger in other issues, though?
No. This is the first time they're younger, but still.
Yeah, but we've seen them, in the issues so far. And, as the match is going on, Roman is, he keeps flashing back through, like, his football days and things like that, so... I love how that's written. Like, after football was done with me, WWE was the one place that I got a second chance kind of a thing.
Which very much is something that he said, so...
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I feel like the match here between the two of them... I forget I assume this is how it actually went down, obviously, with the pedigree and the pin, but I don't know. At one point, it feels like it's just kind of there. It's not bad. It's not a bad thing, but I was so focused on reading the story of the backstory of Roman, like when he was a kid and his upbringing, that almost like in one of these panels when he's ready to do his spear. I almost got taken out of the page for a second, but it quickly gets back in there.
So, to talk about the rest of this, too, I'll just say that much like real life, some of the booking gets in the way.
Yeah.
Like, Roman's feud with Hunter in reality was not something that really benefited him.
Oh, no.
And the book, it doesn't really, it just kind of happens or interjects in the comic series too, which I actually think is really good writing because I don't think there's a way to shoehorn it in.
No.
It wasn't a great feud. It didn't help anybody. And it just sort of happened.
Yep.
That's pretty much how it is in the book, too. So that's actually capturing it really well. And the fault's on WWE, not the writer of...
Oh, no. Yeah. Well, the fault's always on WWE creative. I mean, there's not much that you can't fault the creative team at WWE. Like,
no, this hasn't been a good series of time for them. And
no, but this comic is amazing.
The comic encapsulates a time where they didn't do a great job of booking or writing for Roman. Right. And in the comic, he comes across as a much better, more sympathetic character than anything they managed to do on screen.
Yeah.
So getting into it and getting into the rest of it. So, for example, Seth is about actually as douchebaggy as he was in real life. Yep. But as they continued on too, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine.
But we continued on, and Cena's written pretty much as John Cena would be. And so, I like that. So these issues each encapsulated portions of the main focus is on the Shield breakup.
Right.
Which we saw in the other trades. But that's sort of the bulk of the focus here. And Cena kind of refocuses him. But it was very John Cena-esque.
Oh, yeah.
Should be mentioned, by the way, another friend of at least me, because I love her writing, Marguerite Scott co-wrote on issue 11, the one I'm mentioning now with Cena. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which I was surprised to see her name on it too, but Marguerite Scott's really good for anyone who doesn't know. Everything from, she's currently writing Batgirl, to she wrote a number of the Transformers books and was excellent on it. She's done short stories in the Star Trek universe. She is excellent. So seeing her on a series with strong dialogue is not surprising to me at all.
Oh, no.
Because Cena's speech could have been Cena.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was taken out of his playbook. Could have been anywhere, but it was really well done. So
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I did not know that she had wrote that one chapter.
Yep.
Very cool.
So, yeah, and Anthony Birch was part of issue 10. I don't know what he wrote of it, but anyway. You mentioned, too, we get to see Roman's family in issue 9. We get to see more of his time with family in 10 as well. And it's more stuff that we never saw on screen.
Yeah,
and it's more stuff that I wish we had seen on screen because it helps his character quite a bit.
Yep. And, like, I knew he was part of that, Samoan family thing. I knew that was, and I didn't really know, like, that I kind of thought they were cousins, but I wasn't sure how he was tied in with the Usos, and seeing them kind of not necessarily hold him back, but, try to steer him in the right direction, even though he's, a bull in the china shop here. was kind of interesting and fun, and that's why I liked the backstory beginning of the three of them doing the, wrestling action figures. I'm gonna beat you with Macho Man, and no fair, Roman. Your guy always wins. The stuff with Cena was great. Like, I had forgotten. This is why I love reading this comic book. I forgot that John and Roman I knew they had done some stuff, but I forgot they had this whole feud at the time right after the Shield breakup thing.
Which, this is a topic for Mayhem Mics, but
Exactly.
the fact that I had forgotten that the two of them have really interacted much, I do vaguely remember portions of their feuds, and I remember them using a bit of real-life stuff.
Yeah.
But it should be bigger than it was, and
Yeah.
the fact that I can't remember portions of it is a bad sign.
The
Sign that
only-
maybe when he comes back, they should seriously consider doing something.
Yeah. The only portion of the Cena-Reigns feud that I remember is the fact that John took him to school on the microphone, because he couldn't cut a promo for crap at that time.
No, yeah.
Roman
or
has a
whoever
sick-
was writing his stuff, yeah.
Exactly, but Roman on the mic was severely lacking at that time in WWE, and since then,
that's right.
obviously, he's gotten a hell of a lot better.
Either he's gotten better, or they've let him speak as himself, or whatever it was. But yeah,
Yeah. So the bulk of the rest of this, after the refocusing battle with John, is that the Shield and all of that, and hey, let's team up again. Let's get back together again and have this all-out brawl kind of thing. And they basically fight each other.
Yeah, you mentioned it too. These issues seemed to read a lot quicker than other ones.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is, there's a lot of fighting and action sequences.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Yeah, I love all of the, at least in the trade here, we get all the alternative covers from the series. I love all of those. I think it's super cool. I love when they do the action figure covers, because you have, like, you can't see this and the listeners can't, but you have, like, Cesaro in an action figure kind of card back thing as a cover. You have the British Bulldog as one, Naomi, and Jeff Hardy. But yeah, no, I mean, these first three trades for the main Boom Studios WWE series, focusing on Seth, Dean, and Roman, it's just what I wanted. There's nothing in here that isn't what I wasn't expecting. There are a couple of surprises and things like that, but I love reading WWE right now more than I do love watching it.
Yeah, I think part of it too is when you read these, we keep saying it, but there's stuff I forgot.
Mm-hmm.
It's more memorable in the comic than it was in real life.
Sadly, yes. I don't know. It's just crazy.
Yep. Overall, again, though, it's a solid read, solid series.
Yep.
I, again, would probably recommend it to people who even aren't
Absolutely.
WWE fans.
Absolutely.
Ooh. Technical difficulties. Let's move on, shall we?
No, I'd probably recommend it still to non-fans, and the presence of the different writers, too. They have a different feel, at least with dialogue, that kind of thing, but the dialogue's still really good overall,
Yeah.
so they're enjoyable reads, and it's kind of fun if you are a fan, I find it adds an awful lot more to the characters than a lot of the real life writing to them.
Absolutely. Like, the fact is that these three men can go and do a match against, a triple threat match against each other at the end of the book. And then at the very end, just all be sitting around the cooler and the campfire or the grill or whatever. Because again, like you said earlier, they are all still friends in real life. Just because what's written and what's shown on television is a different angle to it all doesn't mean that these three men are not real people in real life. And that's the thing that, like, we've talked about this for 3 years now on Mayhem Mics. It's been talked about for decades. Wrestling isn't fake. They're all real people. All wrestlers' lives matter, But no, I absolutely love this. I think it's great. 0 to 5 for me. I'd probably give it a 5. There was nothing wrong with this for me. If I was going to take like a half point off, it would probably be for the main cover, not because of what Dan Mora did, but because of the actual cover. Like, there's nothing in this book that has anything to do with Bray Wyatt.
Oh, yeah, that was a weird choice, but...
Yeah, Volume 3 has nothing to do with Bray whatsoever. Like, I was Volume 2, because Dean had something to do with Bray, or Volume 1, I think Seth had... I forget which one it was at this point, but it was a little weird seeing Volume 3's cover be Roman and Bray, when at the time, during this part of the story that's being told in this trade, Bray's nowhere to be found. I don't know. That's a question for the creative people at some point, hopefully.
Well, it's to be fair, he's also contained. Bray and the Wyatt family are contained in the write-up for the trade as well, which is weird. I remember recalling that was odd too. Yeah,
strange. Maybe they were supposed to be in there and then they weren't. I don't know.
Who knows? Sure. But to be fair, that does happen an awful lot with comics.
Yeah.
Look at some of you mentioned reading Spider-Man. How often stuff that's on a Spider-Man comic cover doesn't actually happen in the issue.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What would you rate this 0 to 5?
Yeah, probably a 4.5.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still very, very well done. There are still the single issues, folks. I don't know if we'll be doing those, because I like doing them in trade. The next trade that's being released, it's currently up for pre-order, is Volume 4, Evolution. And no, it's not that Evolution, it's the other one. It's the Women's Evolution. So we go from 3 stories with the Shield and the breakup and everything else to what I assume, because I have not read it, what I assume is going to be the breakout of the Women's Evolution.
I don't get them in individual issues. So.
Yeah, I don't either. So, as I said last time in episode 332 when we finished our Batman White Knight coverage, I don't know what's coming up. It could be any number of things.
Come on, dude.
It could be TMNT Ghostbusters 2 with myself and Joe Reed. It could be Nightwing Huntress, the old Devin Grayson 4-issue miniseries. It could be Venomverse and Venomized. I'm not even sure. So, just playing it by ear. Where can the people find you online, sir?
End of the Transformers universe. Anyway.
Yeah, that'll take me until next year to do, sadly.
Yeah, it's real sad. At
I know.
Nightbeat on Twitter.
I'm at TFG1Mike on Twitter. You can follow at The Pullbag on Twitter. Check us out on Facebook and all the other social media sites, yada, yada, yada. Go to geekcastradio.com. Unleash the comic geek in you. Make your great escape into comics, and we will catch you next time here inside The Pullbag.
Spider-Man, enjoy your fame while it lasts.
You've just heard the latest episode of The Pullbag, the GCRN's first comic review and discussion podcast. There are several ways to get in touch with us and leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. You can rate and leave a review for the show on iTunes. Be sure to leave us feedback. Become a fan of us on Facebook, facebook.com/thepullbag. Send us an email, feedback@geekcastradio.com. Follow us on Twitter @thepullbag and @geekcastradio. So until next time, make your great escape into comics and unleash the geek in you.
And you're the main course.